Welcome to my show. It's a guest here. Her name is Lauren Connolly. Mrs. Lauren, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Lauren. Firstly, you are an artist. Can you please, Mrs. Lauren, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Lauren?
Yeah, so I've started the company Wild Development Studio, and that was, a couple years ago now. I've been dabbling in art for many, many years. And when COVID hit, it gave me some time to step back from my career and reevaluate the things that were important to me. And I realized that I didn't want to spend my life behind a computer and working for somebody else. I wanted to do something that made a difference.
Exactly. Most people have that, mentality. They won't just have to do one for him or herself and see the potential he or she has. That is very beautiful, honestly speaking, Mrs. Lauren. And I also like to dive to your book you've written, which is Wildly Unplugged. Can you please discuss more on the book? And are you also having more books you are planning to write in the coming future, Mrs. Lauren?
Yeah, so gosh, it's self-published, so I feel like I'm putting myself down every time I say that, but it is still like it's 128 pages, and I've got a lot of personal stories in there. So I do talk about leaving my corporate job and everything that 2020 brought into my life, and how nature was very, very healing. And I'm very passionate about sharing that with others. And I find a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't like nature, or I don't go into nature because they think I have to climb Mount Everest or I have to go backpacking through the Appalachian Trail. You've got nature right in your backyard. You can enjoy the benefits of nature just by looking even at an ant crawling across the concrete, or even a weed, quote unquote weed. Dandelions aren't weeds. They're wonderful, beautiful things that provide health benefits for us, and they're pollinators for bees and all sorts of things. So there's nature all around us. So the book helps people to find creative ways to unplug from their phones, because we're always stuck in our phones and we kind of get stuck in this comfortable loop of dopamine hit after dopamine hit on our phones. So how to set boundaries with your phone and putting on timers and things like that, so that we're engaged in the present moment. Because a lot of times when we're on our phone, we're kind of getting sucked in. We're not really thinking of the present moment. I can't tell you how many times I've been looking at my phone while I'm eating, and then I realize I didn't enjoy the flavor of this food, or the texture or anything. And those calories still count whether or not I remember eating them. So it's good to be in the present moment. So some steps that people can take, and it's not like a checklist or that you have to do all these things. It's just throwing kind of a lot of ideas at people just to see what works for them and to play around with it. And I've got pictures throughout my experiences of different animals, and lots of sea turtles. I love sea turtles.
Definitely agree with you, Mrs. Lauren. Honestly speaking, that is only the thing that the body is programmed or the body connects to. Every devices we have around us is not nature, it's not natural, it's not something that comes with what we see around us. It's something that is not really connected to nature. So having this kind of nature, even this time that we are, is very important. So having this time of having some space with this phone and other devices we use to just go outside and have some kind of, breeze, anything that just comes with the nature, the breeze, is very, very important in our time currently. I have to be honest. And that will definitely make it a very, very beautiful and very, very powerful book on its own self. Thank you so much for the insights, Mrs. Lauren. And also, I would like to dive to the point of visual art in terms of education, in terms of medium to educate people, Mrs. Lauren. How can you say visual art serves as a powerful medium to educate people about wildlife and conversation issues, Mrs. Lauren?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I think art is very important, and unfortunately, at least in my area, sometimes the arts and band and things like that are the first things that get cut. And I think art is a fantastic way for people to express themselves. Science is all about facts, and art is about connecting on a deeper level. And there is no yes, there are rules to art, but there is no right or wrong way to do art. And I feel like it's very important to teach kids however they want to express themselves. That is what they need to do. I teach a class called Brushstrokes and Sound Waves where we incorporate just playing with art in a very fluid form, so liquid watercolors, so they can't have as much control. You have to let go of control. Whatever happens on the page happens on the page, and then while they're listening to crystal bowls, so they're doing some sound healing too. And it is so hard to teach the adults just to let go. Whatever your hand is feeling like doing, just do. It doesn't have to look pretty, it doesn't have to look perfect, but it is so important for people just to express themselves on the page. And when you're looking at things like wildlife, you start to notice details that you didn't notice were there anymore. I have a friend that posted a picture of it was a green beetle, and she she got very up close and you could see the eyes of this creature, and she was explaining to her sons, when you can see the eyes of something, you're connecting to its soul, and it's not just a scary thing flying around anymore. It is something that you can connect with, and the more that we understand and connect with wildlife, the more we're going to fall in love with it and want to protect it and preserve our world, because we're kind of in a spot right now where we're harming our home. It provides so many health benefits, and it seems like as humans we do everything we can to stay indoors and to be on our phones and do construction and all this kind of stuff. So we need to figure out how to coexist with Mother Nature because she provides everything that we need.
Mm, definitely agree with you, Mrs. Lauren. Definitely, art is very, very important, even in the time that you are and we are, as you said earlier. Having these things around us in our home and also developing it is very, very important currently, and that shows the beauty of art. It's very, very important, when it comes to wildlife. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lauren. And also, I would like to go to research or probably field that also goes in your personally in your wildlife art pieces, Mrs. Lauren. What research or field work goes into creating your wildlife art pieces? And also, what role do you think emotion also, emotion is a very powerful thing, plays in your artwork when addressing this endangering species or habitat loss, Mrs. Lauren?
So I do spend a lot of time out in the field and taking photography. So I do a lot of painting, but I also do a lot of photography. If you can see behind me, I've got the owl photo and the bee photo. And a lot of times, if it's not quite a perfect photo, I will transform that photo into a painting. And it gives me lots of reference points to refer back to. And what I love about this bee photo is I took it with a 600 millimeter lens. So it was really zoomed in, and the bee was moving around very fast. And it wasn't until I got home and loaded the picture up onto the computer that I realized this bee is covered in pollen. It's got a huge sack of pollen on its legs. And as I'm looking at a bee with my naked eye and it's flying around, I don't appreciate that because I can't see it. Well, having photography is that art lens, I can now see and appreciate just how hard this bee is working and pollinating different things. And with my paintings, I love focusing on the eye as a form of expression, and it really brings the piece to life. And with every painting that I do and post on social media, I make sure to include lots of information about, this is why this animal is this color, this is how it fits into our ecosystem, and this is why it does the things that it is doing. I'm currently working on a book about a turkey vulture. So I'm transitioning from like adult books to children's books. And vultures are kind of seen as these big, scary things. They eat dead animals, so it's kind of gross, but they do play a huge role in our ecosystem. They're cleaning up these dead animals, are stopping the spread of disease. They've got excellent eyesight and smelling. So that's something I love to talk about with the kids when I do bird walks with them, because they're like, oh, I see a bird up there. I think it's an eagle. And I'm like, no, that's a vulture actually. And they're like, ew. And I'm like, no, these guys are really cool. And let me explain to you why. In my previous job, I worked a lot with sharks, and obviously they've got a really bad reputation. And that was one of my favorite things to do, was redirecting the conversation and explaining that they have a place in the ecosystem and they're not as scary as you think that they are. And you're actually more likely to get struck on the head by a coconut or struck by lightning, which I can attest to. I have been struck by lightning and I've never been bit by a shark, and I've got hundreds of dives with sharks. So um, art definitely helps people to stop and slow down and appreciate the wildlife and kind of figure out where they fit into the puzzle piece that is life, and that we all need each other and we're interconnected.
Yes, definitely. And as you said earlier, with the images that you've seen, as you said, the bee turning a normal image into painting, it shows this kind of nature we definitely need around us. From the experience you've had, all these paintings definitely connects us in one way or the other to the nature that we need to have in the life we are currently. We do know that the technology, everything, pictures, pictures, but when it comes to nature, it is nature. When it now comes to something that comes with outside wildlife, bees, tortoise, things like that, it's definitely sends some kind of emotions and kind of, relief when someone sees things like that. So it is very, very, it's like another type of natural things that could definitely help someone naturally in the life he or she is currently. So also, from the experience, I also like to guide to the point of responsibility when it comes to representing certain animals or ecosystem, Mrs. Lauren. Do you feel a sense of responsibility um, to, res- to represent certain animals or ecosystem in your work, Mrs. Lauren?
I definitely do. I feel that going back to that theme of we don't really know how to interact with Mother Earth. And oftentimes, when I'm out in the field, I see people that are like, I was snorkeling in Crystal River with the manatees, and this woman picked up a baby manatee up out of the water. And so when I'm taking pictures, obviously I've got, long lenses that can zoom in really close. I've had people accuse me one time of stepping too close to a snowy owl. Well, I was using a zoom. The camera I was using can see the craters in a moon to give you an idea of just how far you can zoom in. So I do feel a sense of responsibility to, yes, I have these awesome pictures where it looks like I'm up close, but here are some steps that you can take to view this animal in the wild so that you are safe, and also so that the animal is safe and not feeling stressed. I go out to Cades Cove in the Gatlinburg area, and they're known for their bears. And right now, there's lots of baby bears. So it's important that you use the rule of thumb. So if the animal is bigger than the size of your thumb, you're stepping too close. So little tips and tricks like that. Also, making sure you lock your car doors, because the bears down there have figured out how to open up the car doors. Don't have food in your car. Use bear bags or bear bins. So there are all these things that we can do, and I try and educate in my blogs and my podcast and through the social media posts a little bit more education, so that people do feel comfortable when they're out experiencing these animals.
Yeah, it's definitely important. The best way currently now is just to educate people, because a lot of people just need to be educated in things like this. I think that will definitely bring the future, because this type of thing now, when it comes to art, when it comes to wildlife, is very, very powerful. When it comes to nature, it brings a lot of importance, as you said, from the rules that you can set, from the term, stuff like that. That someone definitely to us to also consider when it comes to getting this artwork done. All those things are things that people definitely needs to be educated to also get their own probably in the coming future. Thank you so much very much for that insight, Mrs. Lauren. And also, I would like to also dive to the point of brick cultural or generational gaps when it comes to protecting wildlife. We do know that the time that we are currently, I do not know if there are still more focus, more attention when it comes to wildlife, if there are still more interest in it. So, can arts help bridge cultural or generational gap when it comes to protecting wildlife, Mrs. Lauren?
I think it definitely can help with the culture differences and generational differences. Words can get very difficult even when we're doing certain gestures across cultures that can be misinterpreted. But when you're looking at a picture of an animal and it's, a mama bear cuddling with a baby bear, I think everybody can relate to that and they feel a sense of like peace and comfort when they're seeing that, or when they see an animal that's caught up in trash and they can see the pain in that animal, like that famous video a couple years back where that sea turtle had a straw stuck in its nose and the biologist is pulling the straw out and the blood is coming out of the nose, and there's no misinterpreting that, and the turtle is like kind of pushing its head back and you can tell it's uncomfortable. Without words, that kind of pain can be felt through all cultures. So the visual medias are very powerful for that. And I think that, across generations, our grandparents and great grandparents, they viewed the world a lot differently than we did. Um, and I think being able to show certain pictures and images to them about the animals can help bridge some gaps. And a lot of times when I'm doing programs with children and they get so excited about this picture that they just drew of this animal and they bring it back to their parents and they're educating their parents and grandparents about how cool nature is, it can definitely help in that area.
Yeah, definitely agree. This type of wildlife, this type of animals are definitely help with the kind, as you said earlier, with the peace and emotion that one definitely needs. And also, we do know that there are also a lot of wild animals that probably, can cause a lot of tension. I don't know, but there are some animals that definitely will definitely someone will see, and definitely the impact and the emotions will definitely go with it. Thank you so much for the insights, Mrs. Lauren. And lastly, Mrs. Lauren, I would like to know if you have any advice when it comes to, you know, when it comes to artists who want to use their talent for conversion and education. Do you have any advice in terms of those area, Mrs. Lauren?
I've got so much advice that I wish I would have listened to a long time ago. Don't compare yourself to others. You will find if you are doing what you love and what sparks a fire in you, you're going to find whatever animal or current issue is important to you. And the more passionate you are about that, it's going to show and it's going to spread to other people. Practice every day with your art craft. There is never wasted art product or paper. A lot with watercolor, I'm working on paper. So I love telling people, this is just a piece of paper. If you mess up, it's like a penny. We can, keep going or keep going on that page, use an eraser, or we can, clean up the page and start over. There is no harm in that. So just keep going. And if it's something that you are truly passionate in, you will find your niche.
Yeah, definitely I agree. And we also do have to agree that it's not definitely easy. It will not be easy. It will take time, but that is just where patience needs to come in. When the passion is there, when the love is there, then the patience comes in. When the mistake comes, ups and down comes, then definitely one can definitely develop it. Because I do know art is something that's asked. I think it needs a lot of patience because when someone starts, it might not look where the way wants it, but with constant practice, constant checking a live or probably butterfly or an animal that is very lovely, that has a beautiful color, giving us the nature image, doing it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, and also probably getting people to also know about it. I think it will definitely develop. Having the passion and developing it is very, very important. Thank you so much for the insights, Mrs. Lauren. Mrs. Lauren, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Lauren, what do you think that thing would be, Mrs. Lauren?
Oh, if I could bring back anyone,
Yeah.
oh, I would bring back Jacques Cousteau, the father of scuba diving, because I am a scuba diver, and to be able to dive with him would be an absolute treat. And also to hear from him what our oceans looked like when people were first going in the water, because they definitely looked a lot different than they do now. And uh, just to be able to hear from him and get that wisdom and insight would be very powerful.
Yeah, we have a lot of brilliant, like a lot of experienced people during our ancestral, during our forefathers' time. There are beautiful people, people that would definitely wish that in our time currently, to just make us understand the depth and the truth of the life we are currently, to have this embrace and this kind of calmness we definitely need currently in our time that we are into currently. I want to use this opportunity, Mrs. Lauren, to thank you for the opportunity and the time on speaking on art when it comes to wildlife, educating people when it comes to that perspective. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lauren.
Thank you. Your questions were wonderful and very thoughtful.
All right, have a wonderful day, Mrs. Lauren. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.